Wedding photography advice online is full of do this or you shouldn't do that, and honestly it's a bunch of garbage. The word should implies that there's only one right way to do something, and truthfully you and I know that there's more than one way to become a wedding photographer. Sure, saying something like this is the only way to become a wedding photographer is clickbaity and it works with the algorithm, but we all know that advice without context is useless. So in this video I want to share with you truthfully how I got into wedding photography and fast track my career without second shooting for anyone else or going to school for photography. All the experts out there will probably tell you that I'm wrong, but I totally stand behind the way that I went about it because, well, it worked for me. And I know that it can work for you as well. If we haven't met yet, my name is Mike and I'm a wedding photographer and official Nikon creator based here in Australia. Over the past 2 years, I've helped millions of people understand photography with my daily videos on Instagram and TikTok. But this year I'm jumping onto YouTube because I think it's finally time that I started diving a little bit deeper into my photography explainers and helping people just like you finally start their photography business. I want to give you a little bit of context to what I was actually doing before I started wedding photography because I think that's important. So I shot my first ever wedding in 2021, but I originally started photography back in 2018. I was in my final year of university or college studying a degree in mathematics and physics, and I decided that I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to sit in a lab all day just doing maths equations. I decided at that point that I needed to do something more creative, and so I turned to photography. Well, actually, first I turned to music production, but I didn't stick with that very long, and photography just really lit a spark under me. I loved being able to learn all the new skills, and every time I went out with my camera and took photos, I was learning new things and improving, and I could just see the progress. In 2019, it was just a hobby for me, photography, but I would go out there and I would photograph absolutely everything, and I was so lucky that my partner at the time, now wife, allowed me to take photos of her, and that was where I first fell in love with portraiture and documenting other humans. At the end of 2019, I finished my university degree and I was stuck with a decision. Do I continue down this path of study and continue on and do further study? Do I go into the field that I'd studied in and graduated with a degree in and work in that field? Or do I just take a left turn and try to do something artistic? And so I opted for the completely new path because the idea of sitting there day after day doing maths equations just made me want to tear my eyes out. And so at the start of 2020, I officially started my photography business. I thought that I was going to start doing product photography because the idea of working with clients and being around other people scared me. So I thought product photography is great because I can do it at home by myself and I never have to see anyone. After a little while, I realized that I didn't actually enjoy product photography as much as I'd hyped it up in my own head. So I built up the courage and went out there and started offering family and couples photography. Firstly, just for friends and family, but then I got referrals to other friends and friends of friends. Now, we all know what happened through 2020. The world kind of shut down, and I saw it really as a blessing for myself because I was able to take the time to reflect on what I was actually wanting to do with my business, but actually set myself up for success in the years to come. And at the end of that lockdown in 2020, I finally realized that what I really wanted to do was wedding photography. It was really the encompassing of everything that I'd done so far, the encapsulation of all different parts of photography that I'd been doing up until then, and I could cram that all into an 8-hour day. That idea just sounded so much fun. It's interesting because I told myself when I first started photography that wedding photography wouldn't be for me. It was too scary. There was too much going on, too much pressure. I couldn't be around other people. I'm a bit of an introvert as it is. But the more and more I saw of it, the more and more I saw artists out there producing incredible wedding photography, I just knew that I had to get into that space. And after doing family photography and working with kids, I knew it was time that I had to start hanging around some adults and go to weddings. I'm giving you all this context because I think it's important to know what I was doing before I actually jumped into doing wedding photography. I'd been doing photography for about 2 years at that point, and I'd been running my business full time for about a year, so I already knew about the back end of my business. I was comfortable charging clients. I just didn't know how to do weddings. When I first decided that I wanted to do wedding photography, I think I made a post on Facebook asking if any of my friends were getting married or they knew anyone who was getting married who would allow me to come along and photograph their wedding for free. I just wanted experience and I had no proof that I could actually do wedding photography, so I was totally comfortable to go out there and do it for free. Now, just to be clear, I was working another job in a cafe, so I understand that it's a privilege to even be able to work for free or to have the time, but I just really wanted to make this work, so I started working at a cafe to give myself a bit more bandwidth to be able to take on free work. There are, of course, issues that come along with free work, and I'll touch on those in a second, but I just want to finish on this story of how I got into wedding photography. After I put that post out on Facebook, I was so surprised that I got 6 people come back to me and say they would love me to come along and photograph their wedding for free, and I picked the first 3 of them to go along and shoot for free. I didn't want to work for free forever, but I picked the ones that were coming up the closest. Very luckily for me, one of the couples that reached out was getting married in 6 weeks' time from when I made that first post, so it allowed me to go along to a wedding and get experience relatively quickly. These guys were friends of a friend. They were 21, just getting married, didn't have a lot of money, and so they weren't actually having a wedding photographer for their wedding. And honestly, I respected that they chose not to have a wedding photographer so much, because weddings aren't about flashy jewelry or high-end photography, and I think we've forgotten that over the years. It's a lifelong commitment with your partner, and that's truly what I believe, in the presence of God, if that's something that you believe in as well, but I don't think that financials should come into that equation. So honestly, I was just so honored to be able to go along and help them out and document that day for them, and they were giving me way more in return than I was ever giving to them. So honestly, I was just so honored to go along on their day and document that for them, and I don't think they understood just how much they were providing to me, probably even more than I was giving to them. It's crazy how smooth that process went between onboarding them to then 6 weeks later going to their wedding. We went through the whole process. We had a client meeting, we sat down, we went through their timeline, we did a free engagement photo shoot as well included in the package, and by the end of it, I'd really gotten to know the couple and felt like I was really prepared for their wedding day. In the end, I made the decision that I was going to go along to their wedding by myself, which was an interesting decision considering I'd never actually been to a wedding before at that point, but shout out to Taylor Jackson, because I think I watched all of his YouTube videos, all of his full wedding day YouTube videos to run me through the timeline, and I think I felt super confident about where I needed to be and when, and I was comfortable with all the images that I needed to take. I'll get to my experience with working that wedding day for free in just a second, but first I want to touch on some of the complaints that I often hear about people working for free. It feels like these days that so many people are against doing free work when you're first starting out, but yet they'll pay thousands of dollars to go get an education that doesn't actually give them any experience. Or they're totally against doing free work and they just expect people to pay them thousands of dollars straight off the bat. Like, I myself have no formal training in photography. I have no educational background in photography, but what I do have is a strong work ethic and a willingness to get out there and actually learn on the job. And there's of course other people out there who don't like free work because they think artists deserve to be paid for their work, and I totally agree with that. But at this point I had no portfolio and no way to show that I could actually do this work, so I was totally comfortable working for free. I really just considered it like an internship or taking an apprenticeship, doing free work until I built up my skills to be able to charge for that work. And that leads me to the next issue that some people have, and that is when they say that free work is taking work away from other photographers, which simply isn't true. If someone can afford $5,000 for their wedding photographer, then there's no way they're choosing me to come and shoot their wedding for free when they know I have zero experience. It's like the person who can afford to buy a brand new car is not going to choose a rundown 30-year-old car on the lot just because it's free. They went there to buy a new car because they understand the importance of reliability. Trust me, as a client, taking on a photographer for free is a risk, and sometimes that risk is more expensive than actually just paying an established photographer. You can't have your wedding day over again. And lastly, the other issue that I hear going around all the time is, well, what about the couple? Like, so many couples get screwed over on their wedding day with new photographers turning up, doing the work for free and not knowing what they're doing. Again, if they wanted someone reliable with experience, then they would have paid for it. And if they don't, and then they're not happy with the results, well, don't blame the photographer. They were free. Also, this argument just negates the fact that some people truly cannot afford a wedding photographer. That's right, like I said in the beginning, some people get married without a photographer. To us photographers, that sounds crazy, but some people truly cannot afford it. A brand new photographer offering their services for free may be the only option that that couple has to get photos for their wedding day. Either that or their auntie takes a few snaps on their phone, but who knows what they're going to turn out like. I know that all the couples I photographed for free got married in a church, in a second-hand dress, had their reception in a community hall with no DJ, no styling, and no fancy catering. Again, you're really doing these people a favor by offering your services for free, and they can do you something in return by giving you this incredible experience. But when it comes down to it, just be honest about the experience that you have. You can't screw anyone over if you're just honest with the fact that you have zero wedding photography experience, and all the couples that I photographed were well aware that this was either my first or my second ever wedding. So how did I go? Well, there were a few hiccups, of course, like the banding that happened on a lot of the images because I turned on the silent shutter because I didn't want the noise of the shutter going off inside the church, or the dance floor photos that really aren't that great because I had no idea how to use flash at this point. But the portraits aren't that bad, and I know for a fact that the couple really love and cherish these photos. I've heard from them recently, and I know that they're so grateful that they had these memories professionally captured. I think had I have been paid to go along for this wedding day, I think I would have been so much more stressed and probably missed a lot more things than I did because the pressure was off because I wasn't being paid. I was way more relaxed, and it allowed me to do a better job than I ever thought I could on my first wedding. And even though I didn't get paid directly from that wedding, I got so many referrals from doing that wedding, either from people who were guests at the wedding or from my friends and family when I finally uploaded the images onto my website. When I finally posted the photos, I guess it showed that I was genuinely serious about going into wedding photography, and that's when my calendar started to fill up. And having the experience of done that wedding for free really gave me the confidence to say yes to all those inquiries that I was getting because I now knew that I could do it. And it also taught me how much work goes into wedding photography, and I knew after doing that first wedding for free that I had to increase my prices a lot because it's a lot more work than you ever think from the outside. All in all, this is the biggest learning experience that I've ever had in my photography career. I think I learnt more on this one day than I ever could have going to school for photography. Something I think about all the time is if I could go back and shoot that first wedding all over again, would I go along by myself and just shoot a wedding by myself for free, or would I go with an established photographer and try to work as their assistant or their second photographer for a day to get experience? There are obviously pros and cons to both, but let me talk about assisting or second shooting first. Most of the time, if you're assisting or second shooting, you're doing it for someone with a really established brand, and so it's lovely to be able to go along and actually learn how they work on a real wedding day. I've never done it personally, so I can't speak from personal experience, but from everyone that I've spoken to who has gotten into wedding photography this way, they all say that it's an amazing experience and it really shaped their business going forward. It can also really fast track the learning curve and act a little bit like an internship where you can just ask all the questions that you've been struggling with and get direct answers to them. The few things that I don't like about second shooting or assisting though are this. One, most photographers won't allow you to use the images in your portfolio that you took while you were second shooting or assisting for them. I'm not going to get into whether that's right or wrong, but that's just the way that most people work. So you could be second shooting for someone for over a year and still have no portfolio work to show for it. That just doesn't seem right to me. And the second reason that I don't like assisting or second shooting in general is because I personally don't trust people that much, and I'd much rather just do things for myself. This is definitely my own issue, but it goes back to what we were talking about at the start, in that I think most people in the wedding photography industry are just gatekeepers. And showing up to work for those people is not why I started wedding photography. I don't want to have to go and work under someone who I don't like. I really just want to have full control over everything that I do. Now, I'm not suggesting that everyone out there is bad, and you can definitely find great people to second shoot for. I just have a hard time trusting my gut and knowing who to work for, so I just wanted to do it myself. And I'm also the type of person that's super easily persuaded, and I could see a situation where I just ended up working under another photographer for 12 months, 2 years, just because it's easy work. Meanwhile, in that 2 years, I could have just been building my own business and my own brand over here doing my own thing. Plus, that's not to mention that assisting or second shooting means that you'll never be allowed to actually be the main photographer on a wedding day. I'd just be showing up to do second shooter things like holding light stands or taking candid photos at cocktail hour. And by doing that, I'm not really learning what it is to be a main photographer, how to get creative with photography, what types of things I need to do on a wedding day, or how to compose shots, because I'm never taking those photos. I'm sure being around those people is great, but you'd have to do it a lot before you started to get used to it. Contrast that to what I did, which was really trial by fire, sink or swim in a way. Sure, I got a few things wrong, but I learnt so much more by just trying it and being comfortable to get it wrong on a day that I now implement all the time, and I know what to do. It might not work for everyone, but ultimately I'm so glad that I chose the path that I did. It allowed me to go at my own speed and do things my own way. The only downside in doing things the way that I did it that I can see is that it was a little bit harder to move up to higher and higher paying clients when all the photos in my portfolio were just of budget weddings. But that's nothing a few styled shoots can't fix. Remember, if people can't see themselves in your images, then they're way less likely to ever inquire with you. Here's the truth. You don't need permission to become a wedding photographer. You don't need to follow someone else's checklist, and you definitely don't have to have earned your stripes. This industry is full of people telling you what you should do, but they don't know you from a bar of soap. They don't know your goals, they don't know your situation, and they definitely don't get to decide what success looks like for you. I didn't follow the traditional path. I didn't wait until I had years worth of experience in my portfolio. I just got out there and started. I just figured it all out, client by client, mistake by mistake. I got out there and practiced on real photo shoots with real couples in my own time. And honestly, I think that's what helped me grow faster than anything else I could have done. So if you've been thinking about starting, but you're waiting for someone else to say go, here, I'll say it for you. Go. If this video helped you see that there's more than one way in, let me know down in the comments how you're thinking about starting wedding photography. And if you're already in the industry, I would love to hear how you cracked your own way in. And if you're tired of advice that just talks at you instead of with you, then consider subscribing. I'm not here to gatekeep. I'm honestly just here to help.